Hello and welcome. I apologize for not doing this in person. I should have been there, but yeah, got COVID at the last moment, and so we're doing this remotely. Now, today we're going to talk about complexity and how data centricity is really the best way of reining it in our digital age. So what we'll do today, we'll talk about what data-centric organizations are. We'll look at differences between data-centric and so-called app-centric organizations. And then we'll look at why data-centric organizations have an advantage. And last but not least, we'll try to cover some a blueprint for a data-centric organization. And I apologize for my voice. I have a few tips on how to become data-centric. A little bit about me. I'm the founder of Infocratic. You can think of me as a technologist turned data economist or data like a strategy person. So I started coding at 8, started being a professional software developer at 15, really spent my younger years working for various Silicon Valley companies, mainly in the EDA, electronic design automation space. And then I moved to Canada in 2008 and joined a company called Questrade, which we took from a small startup to being the top broker and really one of the bigger Canada's financial firms. It's really a household name right now, offering way more than just access to capital markets. And therefore, over 10 years, I was the head of data and analytics. And I covered every imaginary discipline there, from engineering to analytics to data management, data governance. So managed countless integrations. We had like over 150 data products running, both internal, external, countless data migrations, countless, analytics endeavors, reports, you name it. So we took the company from having an on-premise footprint to having largely a cloud footprint, from centralized analytics team to decentralized, democratized analytics, folks using things like Power BI around the company. And then, so what happened there over the 12 years, I saw the company evolve its technology landscape and its org structures. And I saw data live its life through all of those changes. Like they say, technology comes and goes, and I add to that, people come and go. But data stays, data remains. So data is the asset that's likely to outlive the organization. And when responsibilities for dealing with data fall on your team's shoulders, you kind of start seeing the life cycle of data through all of those changes, right? So again, systems come and go, org structure changes, responsibility change, but like what happens to the data through all of that? You really start to understand the economics of how data works and understand how value is being created and how it's being destroyed, both internally and externally in the organization. So with that, after COVID started, I founded my own consulting firm, Infocratic, with a mission to help organizations excel at being data-centric, with a mission to help them to reap more value, excuse me, from their information. We really do both strategy and implementation. And so let's talk about what a data-centric, what the data-centricity concept, what data-centric organization really is. Most people, if you ask them, is your organization data-centric, they're going to say yes. Like probably like 50-60% of people, as my LinkedIn polls show, like most people will say, yes, we are data-centric. But what they really mean by that is, hey, we want to do more with data. We really want to focus on data. We understand that data is important, and we really want to do more with it. But in this talk, I'm going to really explain to you what data centricity means and show the differences between, like, how do you tell that the organization is truly data centric? And if anybody in the audience, I'm sure there will be people who know Dave McComb of Semantic Arts and his book Data-centric Revolution. And this is really a very kind of a fellow soul who's been through similar journeys. And he really, I think, is one of the bigger names in the data-centric movement. people who are pushing this. And I think there are more and more people in different industries living through the same experience and understanding that you have to kind of move from technology to seeing world through more of a data lifecycle lens. So what this means, what data-centric is. Let me ask you this: what matters more, the wallet or the money inside? Right. So imagine that your wallet tells you how to spend your money, what you do with it, right? So not to say like it's not only that you can only hold a certain amount of cash in your wallet; it's limited in its size. But imagine your wallet's also taking you, okay, you can purchase this or you cannot purchase that. And unfortunately, this is how things are with information and data in today's day and age. So majority of the organizations, 98, 99% of organizations, they have evolved to choose a technology. So they either buy or build some kind of well, I look at technology as really container for the data and for information. So they buy or they build whatever the architecture to suit their needs, and it's mainly based on some kind of business functions that they want to accomplish or some customer facing functionality. And then that technology dictates what the company can do to its data. And then when companies want to do more with data, that means more and more layers of technology. That means even more buying or even more building. And an average organization today has dozens of systems, like hundreds easily. Like even small companies have dozens of systems. Larger orgs, they get into hundreds. And if we look at like really large financial institutions, they sometimes have thousands of different systems. And it makes it really, really hard to focus on what the information does. Right. So this is my definition of a data-centric organization, slightly different from what you can find, because I try to keep it simple. I try to kind of rally the main points here. So data-centric org is a one that has a single data model, and it's one that prioritizes managing data and information over managing systems and technology. Excuse me. So here's a picture to illustrate the concept, right? So in an app-centric world, this is a typical picture. So you have a number of off-the-shelf software and a number of maybe house-built software. Excuse me. And there's a whole bunch of integrations between them. So you need to integrate data to move it around for operation, integrate the systems to move data around for operations, for analytics, for security, you name it. And in data-centric world, you have a single data model that connects all of these apps. So single data model does not necessarily mean that it's centralized. It doesn't mean that you're storing the data in one location in the same place. It can be federated and it can be decentralized actually, but logically it has to be a single data model. Excuse me, I'm going to go on mute and just cough. Well, at least I don't have fever, which I had yesterday. Apologize for that. So why data-centric orgs have an advantage in our day and age? Well, first of all, everybody in this conference knows that in our day and age, every business is a data business, right? All of the businesses are now about extracting more value from the information that they have access to. Plus, they're trying to create more economic value by bringing in more, like joining in more data that they can bring in externally and try to create even more information based on that. Now, it's easy to understand, easy to see that with more and more systems that there comes more and more complexity. So think about it, every system that you introduce, every application that you introduce in the organization, it brings with itself its data model, its own data model. how it sees the world, its own concepts. And to normalize those concepts and to integrate that in order for the systems to exchange data, to exchange information, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of modeling work, integration work. It's working with mappings, data quality, you name it. It's tedious, it's long, it's expensive, it's costly. So if you look at, for instance, between 3 systems, we have 3 connections. Between 6 systems, you have 15 connections, etc. Right? With 25 systems, you get 300 connections. Now, these are the differences between data-centric and app-centric organizations. For data-centric orgs, data is a shared asset, whereas in app-centric world, data is hoarded either on system level or department level, function level. But in general, data-centric organizations, they understand that data and information should flow freely in the organization. It's the lifeblood of the organization. So if you restrict the blood in one organ, you get, I don't know, a hematoma, a clot, something bad happens, right? So it's not healthy. So like blood in living organisms, data should be freely flowing through organizations. And this is something that's embedded in data-centric firms' cultures. In app-centric world, people think that this is my data. This is the data of the function that I run, or the domain that I own, or the application that I own, right? And now there's nothing wrong with being like having responsibilities in regards of data, but not sharing this is not okay, because organization for the customer, it's a single organism. For a customer, it's a single service that they want to get. So in order to provide that, your organization needs to have access to all the data points, basically. Now, in data-centric orgs, which I know very few, actually, I know maybe like a dozen companies that have data centricity to various degree. But a very common trait is that their technological landscape is very streamlined. It's elegant and simple. Whereas in app-centric world, technology landscape is vast and complex. It's a zoo of systems, of architectures. So think about it. If you run a data-centric work, think about the business as a very complex computer. Now, data-centric, a computer that's also constantly changing, constantly evolving. Now, in data-centric world, you have an elegant computer. You have a computer that has no redundant parts. It kind of saves energy, you know. And app-centric, that means that your computer is very wasteful. There's a lot of access. There's a lot of conflict in parts, a lot of parts that don't make sense. Constantly, there are competing demands on power and information. So that's another trait of when you focus on data and information as opposed to technology. It simplifies the landscape. Excuse me. So data-centric companies, they really focus on data and information. Technology for them is a tool. And app-centric companies, they focus on technology and tools. Data is an afterthought. They make decisions about, okay, we're going to employ this this vendor, or we're going to purchase this platform or this system. And then what happens to the information? It really is an afterthought. So data-centric companies, they have little to no data silos, and app-centric orgs, they have many data silos. As a result, you have high level of trust in data. In data-centric firms, you have high levels of data literacy on average, and data-centric companies can really move very fast. They have a very high degree of agility and innovation. I think this is the biggest advantage of data-centric companies, because they can do things that their competition can only dream of. There are a couple of Wall Street firms that use this data-centric landscape, data-centric concept. I really think they're going to outcompete everything that's there in in a matter of like 5 to 10 years, because nobody else can move as fast as those guys. So they're very smart people, you know. ex-Googlers, ex-Facebook folks who are behind that, like who kind of design the data-centric architectures of these firms. And as a result, they can move very fast. And for app-centric firms, things are slow. So hope this gives you an idea of the differences. Now, it's all about cost, right? It's all about economics. Now, being app-centric, it incurs lots of costs. You have extra infrastructure. Typically, your cost for integration is huge. Actually, Dave McComb estimates that between 40 to 70% of IT budget in average firm today, think about it, 40 to 70% is just integration. It's all these integration pipelines and extra data silos, the various warehouses, lakes, and things like that that need to move data around. Complexity has its costs, because the more complex is your landscape, the more it takes for people to learn it, to understand it, and ultimately to manage it. Agility is also cost. It's lost market opportunities, lost time to market. You're not able to be as fast and as agile as your competition. So data quality issues are all over the place in app-centric world, and trust, all of that has its costs, right? So really, this is a result of this evolutionary, I say, app-centric approach that we ended up with. And how this happened, how we ended up in this place, it's really evolved from technology being the owner of data from early days, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, when there was just one system or like a very small number of systems running the business, when it was like maybe one database that had all the information of the company. Like there were more and more systems. Then as the world became more digital, more complex, as our organizations turned into these digital houses, where everything wants to be connected, everything is wants to work together. What happens to information? It stayed the domain of technology organizations for too long, and now many people, they're actually waking up to this, and they're saying, wait a minute, but it's actually not the technology that should dictate what we need to do, what we can or cannot do with data. In this day and age, with today's platforms, today's capabilities, we should be able to do whatever we want with data. And that's largely true. So 5-10 years ago, you didn't have these data platforms, these very powerful things that allowed you to virtually store any amount of data and process it at speeds that you can only think of, and also tools that allow you to move very, very fast. Now, a handful of such platforms are enough for like 99% of businesses out there. Now, this is my very firm belief, based on my kind of evolution of my worldview over past 20 years, that the digital economy will embrace only those organizations that have a data-centric mindset. The non-data-centric rivals, the system-centric or app-centric businesses, they're not gonna be able to compete economically with the businesses that are data-centric. Now, I'm going to try to give you a blueprint for a data-centric organization to go through some common traits that are there for orgs of this type. Now, it's really a 3-level model. So what it focuses on, the first level is what we have right now. It's our various data stores. It's the databases, it's our files, I don't know, systems, spreadsheets, whatever is there, right? It's the whole technology landscape. The second level that's very important, it's metadata. It's the data that describes data in all of those stores and systems. Now, there are right now, the discipline that deals with it is metadata management. Right, so companies trying to ingest things into various data catalogs and various data management systems. And the top level, when it starts to work actually for the companies that achieve it, when you create a semantic model that unites all of this all of these levels below it. So this is the level, this first level, semantic level, is where you create a single model of your organization. You create an abstract model of all your business, and people think that it might be something that's very difficult to do, but it's actually very doable. And surprisingly, you find that most businesses, they can deal with a handful of entities, like a few dozen or a few hundred of entities, and maybe a few thousand fields, and that's it. You can describe a very, very complex business with that kind of semantic landscape. So all of your business language, all of your kind of contexts and meanings of things, they need to be on this level. Now, if you put this level first, if you put the semantic level first, and you say, you know, like what's happening at these levels, it comes after. So I first, like, imagine if you were in a very perfect abstract universe where you could do whatever you want with information. You were this, I don't know, information god, trying to manipulate, like being able to manipulate all sorts of data formats and data types. Now, if you create an abstract model in that perfect universe, then you become like this a super powerful god that can unite all of these technology assets. And this is what data-centric movement is about. This is what people who are understanding that, you know, dealing with complexity, trying to disambiguate all of these conflicts that appear on the integration level between systems. The only way you can really deal with it, if you abstract from it and you create an information-based view of the world as opposed to technology-based view of the world. Like Einstein, I think, said you cannot solve the problem at the level that it was created. So the problem is really created with the wallet telling you how you can spend your money. The wallet being your constraints, your technology, your systems having the constraints, putting constraints around your data and information, telling you what you cannot do with it. If you go the opposite way, you model and say, like, these are the information types that I'm really that my business is all about, and this is what I need to be managing in my organization. You really have to kind of start from that information lifecycle first. Then it makes the decisions about technology really streamlined. And then you can say, okay, I need a wallet of this size, or I need a bank account, or, you know, a crypto wallet or whatever. Okay, so any business, you can discern these three levels in any business, and really most businesses that they have only the level 3. They are not even things. So some data aware businesses, they have level 2 and level 1, but the businesses that really nail it with data centricity is when on basically the CDO or a person in the equivalent position, they become the main person in the organization, in the sense that they're managing this first level. And this is best done in a graph. There are multiple ways that you can do it. The easiest way is to put a knowledge graph at the top of your firm. So as I see it, in like 10, 15 years, most orgs, they're going to have a knowledge graph at the foundation of their information management. Now, a few tips of how to become a data-centric organization. First and foremost, you need a sponsor. This is true about any changes in the org, I guess. You need buy-in at the top from somebody who supports you. Excuse me, I have to go off again. Oh boy, I didn't think that this will be this hard. Yeah, so you need somebody who understands the vision, understands where you're going, and they're at the executive level, and they can pay for whatever you're trying to change, and they can support you through all the kind of mindset changes that will happen in the org, that have to happen in the org. Awareness of the foundational data life cycles and their main principles is crucial. So having an understanding of what metadata is, what master data is, transactional data, what are the different ways of modeling historical or analytical data. So each of these, I call them like foundational data classes. Excuse me. Each of them has core principles that apply regardless of where the data is stored. It can be like, in spreadsheets or in databases, in sophisticated cloud-based systems, doesn't really matter. So all of these data kind of flavors, it has certain principles that apply to it regardless where the data is. Now, it's very important. Sorry, folks, be right back. Okay. It's very important to focus on company culture and communication. You probably have heard the phrase communicate, communicate, communicate. And once you're sick of it, communicate even more. I've heard this from many CDOs. And the truth is that most people, they're not ready for changes, and changes of this type of nature. When you're saying, we're going to flip the whole pyramid around and we're going to focus on information first, and we're going to, it's not going to happen fast, and it's not going to happen easy. You have to show what's in it for every single person that has part of it. And again, there's a ton of kind of digital fat loss that comes with organizations moving towards data centricity. That means that there will be people who might, I don't know, just not be needed anymore. Like there might be jobs that will be lost in this. And somebody was running a piece of the integration puzzle or one of the data silos, and all of a sudden it turns out that what they do is available for free virtually, right? So taking company through changes is not an easy thing. So I did a number of sweeping not sweeping. I did a number of changes at Questrade that were firm-wide, and it's a very, very hard thing to do. You have to get a critical mass of people supporting you before things start to move. So communication, super important. It's also, I think, what works in the real world, always starting small, and but at the same time doing something that people can see, people can feel, impacts the outcomes. So this, I wouldn't definitely recommend going all out and saying, okay, like we were app-centric or technology-centric. Now we're going to decide that we're going to be data-centric, and we're going to design an abstract model of our business, and we're going to start kind of switching all of our architectures and systems to work with this model. This kind of approach is likely to do more damage than good. It's easier to pick an area where you can start working slowly. So think about it as like if you try to just do I don't know, liposuction, that would be like the analogy of digital fat loss. It's not going to do well. Mostly it's a regular daily exercise that's going to be a lot healthier for your body to lose weight. So I wouldn't recommend liposuction. It will likely cause some secondary effects. I would recommend starting small and taking things gradually. And another crucial thing is that the organization needs skills, mostly modeling skills. So you need people who are good at I don't know, graph modeling, relational data modeling, because you're making information, putting information at the foundation of your business. You need people who can build and maintain these models and look after them. This is the summary of what we covered. Have an executive sponsor. Be aware of the foundational data life cycles and their principles. Communicate, and focus on culture. Start small, have an impact, and make sure to be good at data modeling. Make sure to have people who are good at modeling data before you even go into this. Now, every organization is different. When people say like, okay, is there like anything? This is very high level. I understand that this is some very general points, but every org is different in their maturity, awareness. They're different in their size. These are all the ways how they're different. So I only have like this high level advice for people, and I don't know if you were already familiar with this topic before today's talk, or hopefully I was able to give you something new about data centricity. But I recommend looking up the concept and getting the Data-centric Revolution book, and yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to discuss these topics. Now, I guess my final slide is with main takeaways. So if you have to remember anything from today's talk or take a picture of a slide, it's this one. This is the only thing I want you to walk away with from today's presentation is understand that separating data and technology is good for your business. It's what gives you additional capabilities, additional abilities, because data is going to outlive your technology. So move from this old app-centric or system-centric thinking towards modern data-centric thinking. Put information first. And if you need these North Stars, I have two North Stars. One of them is agility, and another one is trust. So I always say to my clients, like, target to achieve agility with technology, and target to achieve trust with data. So if you're increasing agility with technology, if you're increasing trust in data, then you're moving in the right direction. If things become slower, they become more complex. If the trust lowers, if answering questions become slower, or if there are kind of differences between like getting answers to questions. So that means that you're going in the opposite direction. So these two North Stars, targeting agility and targeting trust with data, they move you towards data centricity. Okay, so hopefully this was interesting to you, and hopefully you discovered something new for you. Now, how to connect with me? I'm active on LinkedIn, so you can look me up and connect with me there. I try to occasionally publish a newsletter at Infocratic. You can also use like an old-fashioned email contact, but yeah, this is what all I have today. And let's open the floor for questions now.
Great. Well, thank you, Ruben. Applause.
Thank you.
So the way questions will go, he cannot hear you. So I will have you ask the question. I will relay it to Ruben. If my interpretation is completely off of your question, just tell me and we'll do it over. But at this point, what questions do folks have? Great.
Are there any sort of technologies you use for that semantic layer, graphing, abstract layers, or a special technology you use for that?
Sure. The question is, are there any special technologies you're using for that semantic or graph layer?
Yes, it's mainly knowledge graphs. So I'm actually co-founder of a small knowledge graph startup. We use Neo4j as our graph layer, and we use like a special business language first based approach. It's called Sementium.io. We're a very kind of early MVP stage startup, and I actually have a talk tomorrow where we're going to be showing how to model things on a graph layer. If you're interested, on LinkedIn. But yeah, graphs, graph databases, knowledge graphs. There are tools that kind of wrap a knowledge graph, but it depends on their capability. So some tools are so constrained that they again become this wallet that they limit what you can do to that semantic layer. Let's say they will force you into a certain type of hierarchy or only certain few levels of hierarchy. Let's say you can use only 3 levels or 4 levels of hierarchy, and that's it. So I would advise against those platforms, something that's you know, not a true knowledge graph, and something that basically, yeah, think about agility again. Like if it increases your agility, increases your trust in data, use it. Hope this answers your question.
Thank you. Yes.
With regard to modeling, familiar with relational database modeling, but at the analytical level, you mentioned getting good at modeling there. What tools would you recommend for modeling at that level?
So the question is, what tools would you recommend for specifically analytic level modeling, correct? Yes.
So today's analytics world is such that there's lots of very agile tools. I think like things like Power BI, like Looker. Most modern analytic platforms, they support they have good modeling capabilities, put it this way. And how it typically works with analytic data products is that you start from a prototype stage, is where you try to scaffold something, build something in an analytics platform, or maybe in a Python script. And then once you are happy with the model, you can kind of put it into something more scalable, right? So if you need to productionize it, maybe you move it towards something that you can scale, like a data warehousing platform, something that uses Spark in the background, or so there's a lot, but like I would suggest using, like, but my go-to tool is actually Power BI. So the 2 tools that I use very frequently and for many things are Power BI and Python. Because you can, with those 2 tools, you can connect to virtually anything, and you can create fairly powerful models. So Power BI uses their tabular modeling techniques, which allows you to model multiple facts, multiple fact tables, multiple dimension tables in one model, kind of combine it all in one place. And same with Python, you can do with virtually anything. So you build a model that suits your needs. And when you find out that the model actually works, so building any model takes many iterations with business users, with all the kind of target audiences. And then when people are happy with the model, and this is specific to analytic models, then you can move it to something that's like a data warehouse in the cloud.
Thank you. Others? I think that may be it for questions. Ruben, thank you again. We hope you feel better. Rest that
Thank you very
voice.
much. Thanks for having me, and I apologize again for all the coughing and all the bad voice.
You are a trooper. I would
Yep.
not have even tried. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
For those of you in the room, so you guys got a survey card as you came in. If you guys would take a few minutes and just fill that out before you leave, you can drop it on the table on your way out. We're done a little early. Lunch is supposed to start right around noon back in that room. We all started in the big room upstairs. All right. So other than that, you guys are good to go.
Thank you. Hope to join you in person next year.